Archer Tang on that win-in round, and it was ultimately Gibby who won that game, and Gibby went on to win the entire tournament, and Nicholas was just left with a top 16 finish, which is still incredible, still something to be very proud of, but Nicholas is someone who wants to win, and he is in a spot here where if he can win this game, he'll be one of the top seeds heading into top 8.
Picking up a win here with this Lost Box deck is going to be so important for him. Has the Raikou, has the Rayquaza, the Sableye, the All-Star cast is here. A couple interesting inclusions with the Oranguru, the Ice Cube.
Yep.
Very interesting. And when we compare that to Lugia as well, it just is a matter of not necessarily what they choose not to include. It's about what did they tech for versus not. There's no Dunsparce in this one, no Bird Keeper. So it looks to be a pretty even idea. We know that Lugia, even when you think the matchup is close or even unfavored, it can always explode in the first couple turns and just take over the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the differences here from what I remember of Nicholas's San Diego top 16 list, and I'm not really seeing anything that sticks out to me as glaringly different. I think he's just chosen to run it back with the same, it's definitely the same deck, and it might just be the same 60 cards. Got that Ice Cube and the Wash Energy in here. That's his answer for things like the Lost Box Mirror. He doesn't play Sableye, so... Or no, actually, he does play Sableye. Okay, so that's his thing. So,
good.
He did change that. So he's added the Sableye. Okay, added Sableye in here. So it feels a little bit more like a traditional Lost Box deck with having those options available.
And when you add the Sableye, you've also got to add the Psychic Energy to the mix.
Right.
So we've got several different energy types and very thin margins, Chip. And so what this is going to make happen is when the Colress's experiments and the flower selectings come through, we have to decide ahead of time what attackers need to be MVPs for this game, this current situation, and try to only lost on the energies for the Pokemon that aren't going to be useful. And sometimes you're forced into these really terrible decisions. We're just having a small consultation at the table right now with the head judge, just making sure that everything is in place and ready to go. This is an immensely important match, not just for these two players, but for the tournament overall, because if an extra Lugia is making it into top cut versus another Lost Box deck, it can really shift who has better chances to make it into top 4 and even into the finals.
Yep, head judge Christopher Szymanski there, making sure everything is all good and fine. Everything is ready to go. The players are all set up, ready to get this game rolling, and we'll get it get it set up very, very soon and get into this win and end game. Get those prize cards out and see exactly how it's going to shape up. I do see a dice over there on Andrew's active Pokemon, so that tells me that Andrew is probably going to be going first in this game, which is obviously massive if you're the Lugia V-Star player.
And there's also a die on top of Nicholas's deck. Do you think there was probably a mulligan that came through?
Most
get an
likely.
Extra card?
Yeah, and they're waiting to set out the prize cards before Nicholas looks at his mulligan. But yeah, here we go, prize card time. See these being placed out. Nothing too bad for Nicholas, and energy is a little awkward. The Oranguru could be something that is a big deal. You really like to try to prep a Colress on top of the deck to try to withstand the Marnies of Andrew Hedrick's list. So that is something that could come up. Nicholas does play one Hisuian Heavy Ball, though.
Capturing Aroma, ending up in the prizes, a very cheeky tech. You don't see that very often in the Lugias, but that won't be a big part of this first game as well. Missing one Fighting Energy, it's not too shabby. When you lose on a Battle VIP pass, it always harms your chances of having that great turn 1 setup if you're Nicholas. But there are 4 in the deck. We saw a couple versions earlier on in the broadcast that were only running 3 VIP pass, so hopefully he'll still be able to hit that and open up this game right.
Yep, got himself the 4 copies in there. He'll be good to go. And we see the handshake. It's game time here. The win and in. Active Pokemon being flipped. And Andrew Hedrick is going first, starting that Oranguru. He does have an Ultra Ball to work with, but
immediately just goes for the Primate Wisdom.
Yeah, not the best hand. I don't think there's any real way to get an Archeops in the discard pile here. We will see Capture Energy. That can guarantee, at minimum, the Lugia V, but it's looking like a less than ideal start for Andrew Hedrick.
Yeah, we find the Lugia V that's pulled to the top of the deck. Going to quickly look through the rest of it, see what those prizes were looking like. What is missing from this equation? Especially here, the players always take note of the prizes and try to sculpt their game plan around what pieces they aren't going to have access to, at least for the early mid-game.
Yeah, this is going to be the bare minimum turn. Andrew does have an Ultra Ball in hand. I think it makes sense to hold off on playing it, though. You don't really want to add another Pokemon to your hand just yet. And he is sitting on Lumineon V, so he can wait to see what he top decks next turn, and then at a minimum, Ultra Ball away some cards, go get an Archeops, and then use Lumineon to grab a Research, discard it, and try to get set up from there.
Yep, especially after taking some notes, just passes the turn. And Nicholas has an opportunity to really get established when there's no threat in play. Grass Energy sent to the discard pile, concealed cards, draws 2. Radiant Greninja's effect, very powerful, very important for getting these Lost Box decks up and running. We've seen the disparity between when they have it versus not, and Nicholas opens with the Colress's Experiment as well. 5 cards off the top, 3 will be selected to add to the hand, 2 will go to the Lost Zone.
Already having some tough calls here. There's a lot of Pokemon.
I saw Sableye, Raikou.
Yeah, an Energy card and Battle VIP Pass. Normally you're just fine throwing away Battle VIP Pass to the Lost Zone, except when it's the first turn of the game. This is the turn where Nicholas would really like to have those Battle VIP Pass. So he's got a decent amount of basic Pokemon there. He may be in a situation where he, oddly enough, chooses to Lost Zone that card here just because he's already got a Quick Ball in hand and he did see a decent amount of basics.
And if we go for Battle VIP Pass, that's just a way to get the Comfey. So Sableye and Cramorant do go to the Lost Zone. This is, I think, pretty standard, right?
Yeah, this is okay.
Lost Box. That you usually run 2 Sableye, 2 Cramorant, get rid of those, keep the other good attackers here.
Going to take a moment to check the prize cards. We saw Nicholas do this in San Diego as well, where he's moving the Pokemon to the front of his deck, moving the energies to the back, just so he can get a quick count, because those are really important pieces for this Lost Zone deck, especially the energy. There's 12 energies in this deck and 5 different basic energies, 5 different types of basic energy. So knowing which ones you have access to and which ones you don't for attacks like Amazing Rare Rayquaza, for attacks like the Amazing Rare Raikou, incredibly important because you need specific energies at the right time. And if you don't have them, you're going to be in a tough spot.
And after looking through the deck, there's 1 Grass Energy in the discard pile, 1 Fighting Energy in the prizes. Nicholas is already sculpting the lines from here. The important part as well, the more intricate these energy counts become for Lost Box, the more chances, the more time you have to take on your turns as you think about the different lines and the different plays. And this is going to eat up a lot of the clock, Chip.
Yep, absolutely going to eat up that clock.
But after the Battle VIP Pass finds the Comfeys, we're just figuring out the rest of the hand.
Figuring out those prize cards
here.
too. Yep.
And now we have to find a way to get this Radiant Greninja out of the active. I believe there was an escape rope in the hand. It feels like it's been an eternity since I've actually seen Nicholas's hand. He's been looking through the deck, getting everything sorted out.
Yeah, now that you've ordered the deck with counting your prize cards, got to make sure that's good and shuffled, randomized, all of those things. Players are allowed to do that. I know it's kind of a bit of a point of contention for some players, seeing people move cards around in their deck, but if the deck is fully shuffled afterwards, players are allowed to do it.
Yeah, and then, of course, your opponent's just going to cut after you're done shuffling most of the time, and some players even put a little bit of their own shuffle onto the deck and put that down. There's a lot of shuffling in the Pokemon TCG. So get used to it, viewers. We're going to send Mirage Gate to the Lost Zone. After that first flower selecting, scoop up net to reset the Comfey back to the hand. Another flower selecting offers up the Heavy Ball and a Colress.
So Nicholas checked his prizes thoroughly. He knows that a Rangaroo is in the prizes, and that is a card that would be really nice to have. And he's valuing it so much that he's going to lose a Colress's Experiment. Wow, I'm kind of surprised to see that, honestly. It is such a strong card, though.
I think that Nicholas has probably been getting bullied by Marnie
right.
the entire yesterday and first part of today. It's just like, I need the Oranguru. I need to be able to save my key cards. And we've seen it before, Chip, where, you know, players get Marnied, especially these Lost Zone players, and they just don't have a way to fight back after the fact, especially if Radiant Greninja is missing from the equation. Once we have Oranguru and Radiant Greninja set up, you're good to go. This also allows you to put an energy back into the deck to activate your Mirage Gate.
Flower selecting chain keeps on rolling. It looks like Nicholas does have another Colress in hand, so by knowing that Oranguru is in the prizes and knowing that Andrew likely only plays Marnie as disruption, he can still guarantee that he'll get a Colress next turn. So that's why he was okay Lost Zoning that Colress, and you can see the benefit immediately of checking your prize cards. He knew that his Hisuian Heavy Ball wasn't out to the Guru. He knew that he had a Colress's Experiment in hand, so he chose to take it, knowing he can prep that card on top of the deck for next turn.
So after another scoop up net, bringing the Comfy back into the active. This is going to be another flower selecting. So now 5 cards already in the lost zone. Another Cramorant coming through would be great here for some early tempo, some early aggression on the Lugia V. Misses out on a Lightning Energy. Slowly but surely, the Raikou and the Rayquaza getting a little bit shakier as late game attackers.
Yeah, this is a lot of cards going into the lost zone. We could see a turn 1 Mirage Gate onto a Raikou and take out the Lugia V.
It is not unheard of.
It's possible. It would be pretty wild to see it happen, but with a bunch of scoop-up nets and switching cards, I mean, we're just 2 cards away. And, ooh, that's a tough hit right there. The Energy Recycler and the Amazing Rare Rayquaza. You do play 2 Amazing Rare Rayquazas, only 1 Recycler, and Recycler can be super vital. So I think Nicholas will probably lose the Rayquaza. Let's see, though.
Yeah, the Recycler is so clutch for those late game plays where you've gone through most of the deck and you're really down to thin lines and you're left with 1 or 2 Mirage Gates and no good targets. The Recycler can make sure that those hit, but keeps the Rayquaza. So Nicholas eyeballing an early Mirage Gate here as he's got 6 cards in the lost zone, might be able to pull it off after all and wants to keep that Rayquaza.
He's so close, but I think he is just short. If he had 1 more scoop up net or something like that, he could maybe do it. There's a quick ball there in the hand, and instead of prepping the Colress, he's actually going to prep Raihan on top of the deck. That's pretty strong. There is a Grass Energy already in the discard pile, and one of Amazing Rare Raikou's attack requirements is to have access to a Grass Energy, but also that works for Rayquaza as well. So I think this is Nicholas recognizing, okay, we're not going with the Raikou just yet. I want to use Amazing Rare Rayquaza next turn to respond to this Lugia V.
But with the Rayquaza's Amazing Burst, it actually sends those energies to the discard pile. So not having the Recycler means you've got to now start focusing on keeping your ordinary rods to get those energies back into the deck.
Nicholas debating on benching these Pokemon, but will bring down the Raikou Amazing Rare and the Rayquaza Amazing Rare. Now, where does the energy get attached is the question. There's already a Lightning in the Lost Zone, so it makes it a little awkward if you're putting one in play already. That's what he's got to do, though. You got to get an energy attachment every single turn. You're only allowed 1 per turn in the Pokemon TCG, so you want to take advantage where you can.
Oh, you can only attach 1 energy? Let me tell you about a Pokemon called Archeops.
Yeah.
We're going to see here in a second chip, hopefully. And I want to also give a special note to Nicholas prepping that Raihan. It shows a lot of respect to Andrew, right? Saying, I know you're going to pop off. I can feel it in my bones. I sense it.
Yeah, even with no Archeops in the discard pile, right?
You know that the knockout is going to come through this turn. Something's going to go down. So I want that Raihan to complete my acceleration onto the Rayquaza so I can respond in kind.
I think Andrew's maybe debating going with the Guru first. He will indeed do it, and I think gets pretty nicely rewarded here with the Ultra Ball. What he can do here, does he have enough cards? I think he does have just enough cards. Ultra Ball discarding 2 to go get Archeops, then Ultra Ball the Archeops and the Aurora Energy in hand to go get another Archeops, evolve into Lugia V-Star, Lumineon for the research, and all of a sudden he's got 2 Archeops in the discard pile.
The sequence is locked in, and now he is following through.
Yep, he's going through the deck. This is now Andrew's first deck search, so he's going to take a moment to make sure he's totally aware of what cards he's got available and doesn't, what things are sticking around, and what is hanging out over there in the prizes. He'll probably make note of that Aurora Energy, maybe Boss's Orders as really important things that he won't have access to.
It's so funny, too, right, where sometimes players have a play that lines up so well, they begin to hesitate just to double check absolutely that they aren't making a gameplay error or a sequence error before they execute on it. When you get really excited about making a good play, sometimes you'll let something slip and everything is going as Chip has prophesied. Lumineon V hits the bench. Luminous Sign pulls the Professor's Research. This is going to send the Archeops to the discard pile. Draw 7 new cards. Evolution into the Lugia V-Star. There's the discard, and here it is, 7 new cards, and then the Summoning Star will activate.
That'll bring back those 2 Archeops, restore them to the bench, and accelerate some energies, and it'll be a knockout. That's a lot of work, though, to knock out little 70 HP Comfey.
It's going to draw a lot of resources, and Nicholas sensed this was going to happen and has the Raihan prepped. So now when the knockout comes through, Rayquaza, or maybe just the other Comfey gets promoted to the active, and then we can get the Raihan and a manual attachment. There is one grass energy in the discard pile, so we have to find that other grass energy and also one fighting energy.
Now, Andrew did draw into a decent amount of energies, which is pretty awkward, to be honest. Makes your Primal Turbos really tough to navigate, and he doesn't really have an immediate way to shuffle those cards back into the deck. The main way is generally going to be Marnie, and I don't think I saw one in the hand, and all I saw was an Irida hanging out.
We've seen players get very gummed up, the Lugia players, when their hand is full of energy. You have to take off turns of playing the Marnie, attaching to Luminion, and maybe not getting a knockout just for the sake of shuffling the energies back into the deck to keep your Primal Turbos up. And when you complete your setup in such a beautiful fashion with the Archeops, it means that you want to commit to just an aggressive, constantly attacking line from here on out. And if you have to let up on that momentum whatsoever, it opens up a window of opportunity for your opponent to take down your Lugia V-Star or snipe an Archeops and then completely put the brakes on your offense.
I was wondering if Andrew was going to do this, attaching the energies to Luminion and manually retreating the Lugia. This is going to play around any sort of 2-prize KO next turn, but it's going to come at the cost of losing his Oranguru, most likely, as the Aqua Return does take the knockout, and Oranguru will be promoted. That is a pretty tasty prize for Nicholas to take.
Yeah, no, you get one prize, but it's also about denying that Primate Wisdom to the opponent. It means that when Andrew wants to go for Marnies to disrupt Nicholas, he's going to be feeling that full effect as well.
Yep.
It's much harder to put those energies from the hand back into the deck with the Primate Wisdom, and you can see still plenty left in the hand. It's going to get awkward potentially. So back over to Nicholas, sends a Compe to the Lost Zone.
That is the magic number 7 now, so all those Mirage Gates in hand are ready to go. While Andrew did have a pretty solid turn, he got off the Lugia V-Star power, he was able to attack. It did come at the cost of not playing a Marnie and disrupting Nicholas. So he had to play the research in order to get that last Archeops in the discard pile, and Nicholas is left with an absolute book of a hand to work with.
And when we, again, evaluate where all of the energies are located, Nicholas has to go for the Mirage Gate here. Ooh, it's tough. Mirage Gate now or Colress. Do you have a chance of drawing into the energies here?
That is true. Yeah, there is always a chance that you see a bunch of energies off of this and immediately regret your decision, but... And there, it looks like there is some energy. Yeah, there's
no
3 basic energies plus the wash energy were drawn off of that Colress.
And you got to remember as well, the energy recycler is also in the Lost Zone.
Yep.
If Nicholas wants to get these energies back into the deck, he has to send them to the discard pile with Radiant Greninja, shuffle them back in with Ordinary Rod. I think that with the hand being so thick, that's probably what he already has lined up, and just went for the Colress right away just to see if there was a different line that could be taken.
So Nicholas is not playing basic water energy. That is one more difference from his San Diego list. And we saw Radiant Greninja be a pretty decent attacker for him in some key spots. And a lot of times in these Lost Box matchups, what you like to do against Lugia is use Radiant Greninja, do 90-90 to the 2 Archeops so that you can clean them both up by Sableye, spreading 6 damage counters on each of them, taking both Archeops out of play in a single turn. Nicholas's deck-building decision here to not play basic water energy any longer means that's not a line available to him, and he's now going to have to expend a lot of resources, this Mirage Gate here, just to take out this Oranguru.
And fortunately, he is running 3 lightning energy, so we do get that attached to the Raikou with the grass energy. And because the metal was added to the hand from the Colress experiment, we can't get the manual attachment for turn. I believe there is one scoop up net in the hand as well to get this Comfey out of the active, and we're going to see the amazing shot come through. 120 to the active, 120 to the bench, and there is the metal attachment for turn.
And nothing on the bench that Nicholas can KO here, so I'll be interested to see what route he goes. Does he put a bunch of damage on an Archeops so that it can be KO'd later on with a Sableye, or does he soften up this Lugia to make it so it's easier for him to KO it with a Rayquaza or even a second amazing rare Raikou?
Yeah, we actually haven't even seen any Psychic Energy yet, and it's just a matter of getting the Sableye threat. There's 9 cards in the Lost Zone. Andrew's also thinking about the Sableye from this position. 2 Archeops now in play with 1 injured. It certainly means that Andrew has to pop off this turn. This is going to be potentially the final turn where you have access to both Archeops at once. Irida being eyeballed as a supporter for turn.
So Andrew could have made a really interesting call here. He has Boss's Orders in his hand, and if he knows about Nicholas's deck from San Diego, Nicholas did not play Choice Belt there, and similarly, he's not playing it here. So if Andrew had used Boss's Orders and brought up the amazing rare Rayquaza on Nicholas's bench, it may have been awkward for Nicholas to respond. In the meantime, though, Andrew has chosen to go with the Irida and is eyeing up that Manaphy as a grab for the water Pokemon he can get. This will limit a future Raikou from being able to come in and take extra prizes on the bench.
Yeah, Manaphy protecting the bench with that Wave Veil, also picking up an item card, just gets the quick ball.
It is kind of awkward to see the Manaphy come into play, though, because that is a pretty easy Sableye prize for later in this game, and especially with the damage lined up on the Archeops as well. That's 2 prizes right there lined up for just 1 Sableye attack.
Yeah, if the Manaphy had entered play, 1 or 2 turns ago, that would have been very significant.
Right.
But now the Raikou's kind of done its job, and Sableye is ready to take over with almost 10 cards now in the Lost Zone.
Andrew plays the Wash Energy. What a tech. Putting this card into his Lugia deck for the weekend. This will protect the Manaphy from any Sableye damage moving forward, and he knows that that could have been a really good line for Nicholas, so he values getting that Wash Energy into play immediately.
Wow, so because of the way Sableye's Lost Mine is worded, you just place the damage counters, you aren't dealing damage. It is the effect of an attack. Very important here, Chip. Just takes the knockout.
That is massive. Andrew down to 4 prizes remaining. Nicholas does have a pretty large hand to work with. We know there's a Raihan in there as well, so it should be pretty easy for him to KO this Lugia with his amazing rare Rayquaza. And how will Andrew respond after that?
Yeah, just has to find that fighting energy, and the grass energy should be pretty easy to do with just 1 Mirage Gate here.
And then we'll need 1 more energy as well, because it's 80 damage for each energy you discard.
True.
If you're only discarding 3, that's 240 damage. Not quite getting there on the Lugia, so that means he is going to have to find an additional energy through either a Psychic Energy or a Metal Energy, which with Mirage Gate plus Raihan, it'll be easy to get 4 energies on this Rayquaza.
Giving up the Psychic Energy as well. Once it gets sent to the discard pile, it once again forces Nicholas. This is the part of the game where things get dire, where you 100% have to find your ordinary rods in order to be able to get those energies back into the deck for your Mirage Gates to activate, so that you can attack and keep up your threat potential. Lugia V-Star going down from here is very significant, because there isn't another attacker apparent, and it's just a matter of Nicholas trying to find the Sableye to take down this Archeops to stifle the ability for Andrew to respond effectively.
See some notes coming down for Andrew. Nicholas kind of planning through some things in this position with the quick ball. Did he grab anything there?
Yeah, just going back into the deck, goes for the
know
Raihan.
Did he just pick up his deck and look at it? Maybe. No, he wasn't. Okay. He wasn't presenting his deck. He had not shuffled his deck yet. Okay, that's what it was. That was a little weird.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah,
Andrew was about to cut it, and he was like, no, I'm going back in.
Yeah, he hadn't shuffled or anything just yet, so that's what we saw happening there.
So Raihan goes through, attaches to the Rayquaza, picks up the Mirage Gate, attaches 2 more. There it is, the Fighting and the Psychic. So Rayquaza's ready to go. Comfey has that air balloon in the active spot, so it's just going to retreat, and this is going to bring Amazing Burst into the active spot, Chip.
Yep, and that it will be enough damage to pick up this KO. 320 damage, more than enough to deal with this Lugia V-Star, but not before we see a Flower selecting. Losing a Scoop of Net feels pretty tough, but a Psychic Energy to Lost Mine with later is pretty nice as well.
And after Nicholas makes that final decision with the Oranguru to put a card on top, we're going to see Rayquaza come into the active. Amazing Burst. This is the reason this card is in the deck, Chip. It's to take these really big, important knockouts. Nicholas Moffit going to take 2 cards, go down to 3 remaining, and pull ahead in the prize race.
Manaphy coming into play as well, playing around every possible thing Andrew could have. If he's got Raikou in his list, that is absolutely something you want to have down, and sure enough, Andrew has the card.
Very important to play around that. The Manaphy, has come in and out of these lists, and now it is 100% effective for so many different matchups from this point. And Andrew protecting the Manaphy with the Wash Energy, has 2 Archeops in play, can hopefully buy a little bit of time, right? Because Nicholas Moffit having to take a single prize and a single prize means that as long as Andrew can respond by taking out the main attacker or something of the like, it should be very important. Now, with Rayquaza having 2 retreat costs, this is a little bit more awkward to get out of the active. We want to try to find that escape rope. And Nicholas is eating through, as you said, Chip, a lot of resources here.
Andrew does grab the Marnie off of this Lumineon. He's got so many energies in his hand, so totally makes sense. You got to put those back into the deck so that you can even Primal Turbo, but at least looks like he's at least got a couple energies he can pull out now.
Goes for the first Primal Turbo, wants to attach to the Lumineon.
Yeah, I think that's most likely going to be the attacker this turn. It does require him to attach an energy to retreat this Archeops, but if that's what you got to do, it's what you got to do.
And once you attack with the Lumineon, get all the rest of those energies shuffled back into the deck, you're also taking that 2 prize Pokemon out of play,
right,
and just making it more difficult for Nicholas to map out the proper prizes. I think, however, Andrew is going to be forced to put something else into play, right? It's going to be another Lugia, something with a lot of HP that can't get taken down easily.
Yeah, maybe like that Radiant Charizard.
And even with Archeops and Lumineon in play, the Sableye can't easily take knockouts versus them, so the Lost Mine is going to be a little bit delayed as well. Things are getting very decisive as we head closer and closer to the end of this game, Chip. The decks are getting thin, the resources are getting thin. Both players are struggling now with their energy management, having to make these plays very specifically so they don't burn themselves in a future key turn.
Yeah, I think Andrew could be in a fine spot here if he can weave in a Stoutland to close out the game. So if he takes 1 prize here, he goes down to 3 and leaves only 1 prizers in play. Nicholas takes a 1 prize KO, goes down to 2. Andrew takes a 1 prize KO, goes down to 2. If there's only 1 prizers in play for Andrew at that point and Nicholas can't spread enough with Sableye, Nicholas could only go down to 1 prize card and Andrew could try to close this game out with Stoutland.
This is an underrated aspect of Lugia piloting, is knowing when to kind of pivot to a single prize game plan, at least temporarily, to delay your opponent and set up for that play. So I do like to see it. We've got 1 energy once again attached to the Archeops in the active. Here comes Radiant Charizard as well. This is going to be a single prize attacker, but also does a lot of damage. So if something with a little bit more HP is promoted into the active, you're going to take that down. Aqua Return hits the Rayquaza.
Yeah, and honestly, Radiant Charizard is really annoying for Nicholas to deal with. He doesn't have anything that really effectively KOs it. He could use Rayquaza. That's pretty much it. This could be a turn where we see him take a prize with Sableye on that benched Archeops and try to slow things down. But yeah, really heads up decision here from Andrew, leaving that Radiant Charizard in the active spot, recognizing Nicholas is going to have a tough time dealing with this.
It's not going to get knocked out if Nicholas takes a prize, as he's almost forced to do in order to keep up the pace here. It's just going to activate that Excited Heart. You get another easy knockout and prepare for that Stoutland. It looks like the play is coming to fruition, Chip, and Nicholas has to pivot now, finding an Ordinary Rod. I think all of the energy is actually in the discard pile, or the Lost Zone.
There's a lot. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot in this discard pile. And already Nicholas is pulling the Rayquaza out, a Lightning Energy, a Grass Energy. I mean, it's so tough to navigate this deck where you play so many different types of basic energy. Every little decision makes a big difference.
First Ordinary Rod comes through. Comfey, Rayquaza, a couple energies now being shuffled back in. Nicholas Moffit plays 2 Ordinary Rod.
Yep, so we'll have another one. Even though that Recycler's gone, still enough ways to get those cards.
Flower Selecting gets rid of VIP Pass. Quick Ball added to the hand as well. This allows you to, fish out that Pokemon that you just shuffled in with the Ordinary Rod.
And it is going to indeed be the Sableye. We can see Nicholas take the knockout on the Archeops on the bench. That will limit Andrew's play just a bit. But that Charizard is not going to be dealt with, and it only needs 1 energy attached if Nicholas takes a knockout this turn.
You can sprinkle a little bit of damage on there, maybe try to get the knockout later on with a Cramorant or something.
Sure. Yep.
And there's 1 Cramorant in the Lost Zone, so it's, again, still a pretty tall order for Nicholas. The attacks are there. It's a matter of whether or not the numbers line up, Chip.
So Nicholas has Raihan and also Mirage Gate. Yeah, he's making sure he's got 10 cards. That's a mistake you absolutely do not want to make. Lost Mining, when you don't have 10 cards in the Lost Zone, then you're just going to be stuck having to go for Scratch for 20 damage.
And after the Raihan attaches the Psychic Energy directly onto the Sableye, you get to search your deck for another card of your choice and add it to your hand. And Nicholas pulled that card immediately. I didn't even get a chance to see what it was.
It looks like it was the other ordinary rod, wanting to prep to put important things back into the deck
Yes, and then
next
puts
turn.
it on top with the Oranguru to save it from Marnie. You're going to have that ordinary rod maybe to get the more energies that you're going to need.
Now, Andrew actually only plays 2 Marnie, and I think he has played both of them at this point. So
Okay.
won't be able to respond right away. Nicholas is just going to think through the damage here. Obviously, 30 is going on to the one Archeops. It looks like 30 more is going on to the other. Maybe it's going to be 40, actually, setting that up so it can be KO'd by Cramorant.
Do it. Yeah, he's got to do some math here. Looking at his notes, looking at the discard pile, seeing, is Raikou available? Do I have to go to Rayquaza? Am I going to try to go for a double Lost Mine line? And depending on which attacker is going to follow up with this Sableye, it really determines where the rest of these damage counters are going to go.
Yep, and he will put 5 on the active, 4 on the bench, and 3 on the other Archeops. So takes a knockout. This sets up both of these Pokemon so they can be KO'd by the Cramorant. And I think this is set up pretty decently for Andrew. I don't think Nicholas can take 2 prizes next turn. The Manaphy in play prevents the Raikou from using its Amazing Shot, and the Wash Energy on the Manaphy prevents it from being Lost Mined for an easy KO.
And after that's all said and done, Andrew just needs to take 1 prize this turn. Very easy to do with the Charizard. And then we set up for the Stoutland. Hopefully it does come to fruition. Quick Ball, looking through the deck. Has to find that attacker now.
It would need to be a Stoutland plus a Boss's Orders in order to close out the game. Andrew could preemptively bench the Stoutland, actually, and load some energies up onto it so that he could KO something with 120 HP, theoretically. He's not gone through any of his powerful colorless energies just yet, so he's got all 4 of them, so that can make the Double Dip Fangs do 120, but he's only got 1 Archeops, so he can't put all those energies in play in 1 turn. But off this research, if he draws into the energy for Charizard and a way to get Stoutland down, he could pretty freely bench it and just make the call, hey, Nicholas, you don't have a Boss's Orders plus a Rayquaza to knock out my Stoutland.
And that was some beautiful thinning as well, pulling out that, that Archeops and then just discarding it with the Professor's Research. Draws into the Stoutland V. See a Lugia V in the hand.
Okay, so he's not going for the line of loading some energies up onto Stoutland just yet. This does mean he will have to find a boss on the next turn to bring up a Comfey.
There is the Aurora Energy in hand.
Yep, so can power up Charizard through that.
Yep, so there are the attachments there.
Oh, does he want to go for Stoutland now? Is maybe, well, he can't because he's only got 1 Archeops. So, yeah, I think he's just loading up some extra energies on this active so that he can retreat it if Nicholas goes for a Lost Mine. It is a little awkward because Charizard does have a pretty hefty 3 retreat cost.
So Lugia V is discarded by attaching the Aurora Energy, and there's the Combustion Blast.
Yep, taking the KO. Nicholas down to 2, Andrew down to 2. This is going to be an incredibly close game. Nicholas cannot take 2 prizes and win this turn. We'll see what he does. Does he find the Cramorant to take the easy prize on this Charizard?
We've got to take 1 prize at the very least. Another Ordinary Rod coming through. We knew that Nicholas prepped this using the Oranguru. Going to shuffle that Sableye back in and a couple energies. Are there any other attackers we want to shuffle in, Chip? We still need to find the other Cramorant, if I'm not mistaken.
We still need to find the other Cramorant. One is in the Lost Zone. It's not in the discard pile.
Yeah.
And I think that the likelihood of you pulling off a Amazing Burst is pretty low. Amazing Shot is maybe a little bit more manageable, and that would at least keep your energies around. So it seems like the better of the 2 choices. So Raikou is maybe going to be the play. I think that it's going to be tough for Nicholas to even go with the Amazing Shot, to be honest. So that might be what he's debating. Is it even worth putting this Raikou back into the deck?
Yeah, even second guessing that. You can choose up to 2 Pokemon and decides to bail out on that decision. He's just going to try to go for the Sableye line. Nicholas Moffit knows that this first game is neck and neck and just has to pray that I took out that other Archeops. The Stoutland is very difficult to take care of, but Andrew did a really good job of not revealing the Stoutland and just prepping this Radiant Charizard so that it can retreat.
So the Amazing Rayquaza is seen here off of this Flower selecting. If you have to knock out a Charizard with that, that's pretty awkward. It might be the route he has to go, though.
We've already seen a couple Mirage Gates come through.
Yeah.
So these, the Raikou and the Rayquaza get very awkward to attach all these energies to. And you have to, at this point, you're still keeping track of how many are in the deck now, how many are in the discard pile. Do I have the right mixture of energies? There's still 1 fighting energy in the prizes for Nicholas Moffit. There's Raihan following up, attaches a Grass Energy.
We know the lightning. We know the lightning and the fighting is in the deck because he just ordinary routed it back. So assuming there is a Mirage Gate here, he can pull those out and pull off the Amazing Burst.
And once the Mirage Gate does happen, it is in the hand. We do see it there. We also have Escape Rope, but that just resets the Charizard if he can't get the KO this turn.
Yeah, he already had the Mirage Gate, so he's taking a different card there. Maybe it was the Sableye. Ooh, actually, also could have been the Scoop Up Net. Could be a spot where Nicholas wants to clear a Pokemon out of play. One of the 2 Manaphy's that he has on his bench, potentially, just get them out of here. And use the Sableye instead in this spot. Using Sableye, though, does open yourself up to being hit with the Stoutland, though. That is something Nicholas should be trying to keep in mind here.
But yeah, it just brings the Sableye down into play. Mirage Gate attaches to the Rayquaza and the Sableye, and then we just have the manual attachment onto the Rayquaza to find that Amazing Burst coming out once again.
Yeah, Nicholas really needs to go for the Amazing Burst, but the way it's lined up, I think he's going for the Sableye, and I think Andrew is going to have the pieces to win. Oh, no, he's going to... Oh, yeah, Nicholas is going to knock out the Archeops. Yeah, if he knocks out Archeops, Andrew cannot pull off the Stoutland attack. Nicholas does that, and Andrew doesn't have a way to move the Charizard out of the active. It can't use Combustion Blast in multiple turns in a row. So Andrew's just going to scoop it up, and Nicholas is going to win game 1.
Taking out the Archeops. Yeah, that was the line to prevent the Stoutland.
Yep.
And you talked about it, Chip. If you can pre-bench the Stoutland, manually attach to set it up just in case that Archeops goes down. But he opted to try to keep the Stoutland hidden and trust that Nicholas Moffit might go into a different line and just get rid of the Archeops. We know that the Radiant Charizard can't attack 2 turns in a row. I'm going to win this prize trade. And with only 18 minutes left in the round, Nicholas Moffit finally decides the first game. So these players are going to be going at lightning pace.
Yeah, at least Andrew will, right? Yeah, and Andrew's going to be wanting to hustle through this one, at least try to get 1 win. As Andrew now, with such little time left, I think you're almost thinking, maybe if I can just win game 2, we can tie, and hopefully there's a chance I'm one of the people who bubbles into cut. It's really unlikely at this spot if these players, with how much time is left, it's really unlikely that we're going to see this whole game complete just because of how long these Lost Box decks take.
Many a player has been burned by relying on Swiss math to decide their fate. Yeah. But 2 Cramorants in the prizes for Nicholas Moffit. This early tempo that it can generate, softening up a Lugia, is now off of the table. If Nicholas pops off with an early Colress, gets that Flower Selectings up and running, and then doesn't have the Cramorant to capitalize on, it's going to feel absolutely terrible. And the way they're distributed, we've got to take 1 or 2 prizes to even unlock that potential. They're best in the early game.
So Nicholas will be playing the Battle VIP Pass. One thing I also noticed in Andrew Hedrick's prizes, he prized the Stoutland. We didn't see it come out in game number 1, but that is a massive card and something that is incredibly important in this matchup to try to deal with those Comfies and try to put on the pressure. Andrew wasn't able to go for Stoutland early. He was trying to save it for later in game number 1. I feel like if you want to win a best-of-3 set with only 17 minutes left, you've got to go with that early pressure of Stoutland, and he won't have that option.
Yeah, Nicholas doesn't have the early pressure of Cramorant as well to really seal up this game. We've seen some matchups with Lost Zone into Lugia where the Lugia player gets off to a really rocky start, and then Cramorant just attacks and just gets that free knockout on Lugia V, and you're feeling really good about yourself. So this is shaping up to be much more of a grind, Chip, without the threat of that late game or mid game double dip fangs and the absence of early pressure from Nicholas Moffit. Who knows? Colress's experiment could pop off. We could get like a turn 2 Mirage Gate into Amazing Shot, maybe heading off the Manaphy at the pass. It's still a lot up in the air, but Battle VIP Pass going to start off and find 2 Comfey. So already potentially 3 cards in the Lost Zone.
Yep, a couple Comfey coming down. Not going to have access to the Cramorants at all in this position. Looking at those 2 Sableyes, just making sure he's got both of them available, and definitely going to be checking those energies as well. Andrew on the other side did start the Lugia V, which is a pretty solid starter, but when you're going second, and actually interesting enough, did Andrew just draw pass potentially? Because I don't think he would have chosen to go second in this matchup. Yeah, Andrew, yeah, we just got word Andrew, did choose to go first, and so he must have just drawn and passed, meaning that he had nothing going in his opening hand. It was so fast we didn't even see it.
Yeah, we just thought he didn't go at all. So with nothing to play down, he hasn't even checked his hand. It looks to be dead. It's probably just a bunch of energy, a bunch of nonsense, and hopefully a Marnie.
Yeah, hopefully something to slow Nicholas down and also get himself back into this one. Now, there's entirely possible he's got a supporter. Of course, you can't play a supporter on turn number 1, but yeah, he's keeping it a secret from us for now at least.
And with the, fighting energy being sent to the Lost Zone off that flower selecting, very important.
Yeah, it does only play 2.
And so then sends Psychic Energy to the discard pile to retreat the Comfey after that manual attachment. And then sends the other Psychic Energy to the Lost Zone. So Nicholas Moffit already having to make some tough choices and begin working with some very thin margins now of energy.
Yep, only plays 2 of each of those types, so he's only going to have 1 more to work with, and there's already a Psychic in the discard pile, so there's no Psychic Energy left in the deck at the moment. He's going to have to play Ordinary Rod or Recycler if he wants to attack with Sableye.
And after the Oranguru, it looks like Nicholas is met with another very difficult decision, and Rayquaza does hit the bench. And that's just going to be a pass of the turn. Not too good, but not too bad either. Certainly much better than what Andrew had access to. It's almost as though Nicholas went first, right? You know what I mean? You don't get to play the supporter either, so we're just starting this off right. Evolution Incense comes through off the top to find the Archeops. There indeed was a Marnie in the hand.
Yeah, there's actually is a pretty decent enough hand here for Andrew. He's got an Ultra Ball, so he can Ultra Ball away the Archeops that he just grabbed. He's got a Quick Ball, so then he can Quick Ball away the Archeops he gets off the Ultra Ball. So we can still see him get a couple Archeops in the discard pile. As of now, though, there's not an immediate out to the Lugia V-Star. So he's going to be relying on either a Marnie or potentially a Research if he wants to go for it.
Yeah, went for the Evolution Incense to get the Archeops. Wanted to check the deck just a little bit more before making the decision with the Ultra Ball. Grabs the second Archeops, quick balls it away. So there, we've got 2 Archeops now in the discard pile.
Yep, could see that Guru come down. It's a pretty fan favorite choice for the Lugia player. We could also see something like the Raikou come out as a potential threat attacker. Of course, Manaphy being on Nicholas's bench makes that a little bit less enticing. You do want to attack with those 1-prizers, though, so yeah, we'll see which way Andrew decides to navigate. It could be time to just bench the Charizard right away. He's thinking about it, but we'll think to go with the Oranguru instead.
Yep, get the Oranguru. That opens up the Primate Wisdom alongside the Marnie here. Doesn't go for the Primate Wisdom before the Marnie. These are all cards we want to shuffle back into the deck. There was a couple energies, a Luminion, and then we have Primate Wisdom to see 1 more card after this 5 from the top.
Needing to find a way to get Lugia V-Star, and he is able to draw into it. Very nice. He can now use that Summoning Star V-Star power, bring out those 2 Archeops, and let's see if he can find a way to attack with something that is not Lugia, which is what he did in game number 1, and he does have Quick Ball and Capture Energy in hand. I wonder if we will see a double dip Fangs. Oh, wait, no, we can't, right? It's prized, yeah. So this would be a time that it would be great to go for the Stoutland, but he actually just can't do it.
Terrible shame, and after looking through the deck so much, you know that he sees it's in the prize and has to just pivot to something else. And once you have the Lugia V-Star in the active and this becomes your main attacker, if you don't have anything else to pivot to, it does become very scary.
I think Andrew's probably just going to attack with Lugia V-Star and cross his fingers that off of the 4 cards from Marnie, Nicholas cannot find a way to get 5 more cards in the Lost Zone, plus Mirage Gate, plus an extra energy onto the Rayquaza in order to get 4 energies on it to take a 1-hit knockout. That's really kind of the gambit he has to go with here.
And you think that it would be a very tall order. You'd think that would be very unlikely, especially with the spreads of energy that are in this list. Andrew got a very healthy dose of all of the energy that Nicholas had access to in this deck. And you've got to dodge a lot of Flower Selectings and Colress experiments in order to make all of that happen, Chip. And here's the Colress to start things off.
An Amazing Shot could be a pretty interesting call here as well. If Nicholas can get to it with the Raikou, it would hit the Lugia for 240 damage, setting it up to be KO'd by a Sableye later on, and it would also target down the Oranguru to take an extra prize on the bench. Off this course's experiment, though, I think Nicholas drew a bunch of energies.
Yeah, we can't really see the hand. I think I saw a heavy ball. All right, Rayquaza, lightning energy being sent to the lost zone. So once again, things are getting very narrow about being able to power up the Rayquaza and the Raikou. Heavy ball comes through. Nicholas is going to look through the prizes here to see any basic Pokemon. He's going to be able to grab one of those 2 Cramorant that were prized.
Yeah,
so that's going to be super important.
I think the Greninja was prized as well, so we could even see that come out here potentially. Really tough choices, I think, for Nicholas overall. We're down under 10 minutes remaining in the round currently, so things get a little dicey in these spots. If this best of 3 does not conclude, so if Nicholas wins game 1 and game 2 does not finish, then that means Nicholas will win the game, right? If there's only one game that's been played, the winner of game 1 wins the entire set. Now, if Andrew is able to win game number 2, and we're setting up and playing game 3 and the game doesn't finish, then it's just going to be a tie.
And players tying at this point, it's such a scary bubble chip. They've got to go for the win. And I did see a quick glimpse there. It looks like Radiant Greninja was grabbed off the Hisuian Heavy Ball.
Yeah, really showing how important that card is to this deck. I think Nicholas wouldn't have minded taking Cramorant here. That would have been a good way to just get a hit on Lugia this turn, but Greninja is going to have to be the take.
And after those prizes are replaced, another flower selecting happens, and Manaphy goes to the Lost Zone. Scoop Up Net also coming through to reset, bring that other Comfey up to the active. Another hard flower selecting being offered to Nicholas Moffit.
Yeah, it looks like a Scoop Up Net and a Mirage Gate. Mirage Gate's one of the most important resources in this entire deck. But Scoop Up Net is what lets you chain together these Comfeys to go turn after turn after turn. And another tough call.
Raihan and Recycler.
Yeah, it's really easy when you see those Battle VIP pass off of these flower selectings. But yeah, when you're seeing things like Raihan and Recycler, it's just absolutely agonizing.
And Nicholas opts for the Raihan. It did a lot of heavy lifting in the first game, but maybe Nicholas, after seeing the way the energies are playing out, realizes that the Recycler is going to be a little bit more significant to make his game plan come to fruition. Radiant Greninja now finally finds its spot on the bench. Grass Energy discarded, concealed cards, drawing 2, finds an escape rope.
I think Nicholas was looking for a Mirage Gate still. I'm not sure. I don't see one in the hand immediately. And if he doesn't have a Mirage Gate, there's nothing for Nicholas to do this turn. He's just going to have to pass.
And with so many resources expended, so much digging done, and not really having prize cards to show for it is going to give Andrew a huge window of opportunity here, with Nicholas unable to capitalize.
I don't think Nicholas has used Primate Wisdom yet, so that's a way he could get one more look. We'll go with the Escape Rope first off, though.
So Rangaroo comes to the active. This lets you put the Comfey out. Ice Cube goes to the Lost Zone. Up to 8 cards now. Still trying to make it happen.
Will be Guru putting a card on top. It's not a Mirage Gate.
Yeah, I believe it was another Comfey.
Does have an energy to get onto the Rayquaza. This can build up to it much more easily, being able to have 4 energies on it next turn. But for now, I think we're just going to be seeing a pass. Yeah, indeed, it is Andrew Hedrick's turn once again.
This has just been a match of pretty mediocre turns so far, Chip. The players are doing a good job of just getting set up, but they have not yet really gotten a strong payoff.
And Andrew is wanting to be aggressive after the Manaphy in this spot. Nicholas is playing 2 Manaphy for this exact reason. Whenever your Lugia opponent bosses the Manaphy, they open themselves up to being able to use Raikou later. But as we can see, Nicholas had to Lost Zone the second Manaphy.
So with double turbo energy being accelerated onto the Oranguru, it will be able to retreat and set up to KO this Manaphy. Nicholas is now under a lot of pressure with the loss of this final Manaphy. And who knows how desperate he's going to get. Do I want to just try to go aggressive and outpace the Raikou? Or do I want to ordinary rod this back into the deck and try to get the rebench?
Yeah, this is a scary spot to be in as the Lost Box player, because you know Raikou can just take 2 prizes for your opponent at almost any given time. And if Andrew can take 2 prizes with Raikou and then 2 prizes with Stoutland, if he can take it off the prizes, he's going to win this game in just 2 turns, theoretically.
So that is the next threat that Nicholas has to prepare for. We'll see if he is going to try to bet on the Stoutland V being in the prizes, play towards that very specific out, just jump through some hoops to get the mana fee back on the bench to deny Andrew looking through the prize cards, because even though there's only a few minutes left on the clock, if Andrew already just has the next attacker in play, it's just a matter of bench, retreat, primal turbo, very quick turns, announcing an attack, and getting it to go.
Let's see if we can find a Mirage Gate here. That is absolutely something Nicholas needs, and he doesn't see one. Where are the Mirage Gates, Adam?
The Battle VIP Pass shows up instead. It's an easy choice to send to the Lost Zone, but it doesn't matter if you have easy choices if the good cards that are left over aren't the ones you need, Chip.
I think there's 3 Mirage Gate remaining in the deck, and Nicholas has seen so many cards and not been able to find one just yet.
There is one in the prizes.
Okay, and one in the Lost Zone. So there's only 2 left in the deck, actually.
So it is a pretty tall order here. Flower selecting comes through.
He does still have access to concealed cards as well.
Scoop up net resets the Comfey. Another flower selecting, digging deep. Wash energy goes to the Lost Zone. You have to keep that lightning.
It does find a lightning too, which makes it awkward because you need to have energies in the deck to Mirage Gate.
So concealed cards can put that into the discard pile, try to draw 2, find an ordinary rod perhaps to shuffle that back in.
Yeah, I think he's got the recycler in hand as well.
Yeah, earlier on Nicholas did keep that, gave up a Raihan to do so.
Really valuing that piece. Primate Wisdom could see him just one more thing. Oh, you got to put a card on top, yep, before you see what you're taking. Thankfully did do that. And now, where are the Mirage Gates? Yeah, it doesn't look like he's got them. Can't quite dig anymore unless he uses concealed cards, and he's really being hesitant to use that Radiant Greninja.
It's just a matter of being nervous, not being, if you discard this to the discard pile, you're committing fully to maybe pulling the trigger on the recycler before you really want to.
Oh man, and if Nicholas just passes here, yeah, and it looks like he's going to, yeah, this is going to get out of hand very quickly, and Andrew's going to play quick. He knows what he needs to do. He knows time is of the absolute essence here. Throwing some energies into play. He's going to start swinging with this Luminion, it looks like, maybe promoting the Oranguru for turn, which, once again, I mean, it's got a lot of HP. It's pretty annoying for Nicholas to deal with.
Yep, just retreats with the, using the double turbo energy, immediately attacks with the Luminion, shuffles that and those Aurora energies back into the deck. Stoutland V in the prize is going to take one. Is he a left or right gamer?
That is the question, and it is the Stoutland as the grab. I will say, I don't know how much it matters as much as it would have if Andrew had, for example, attacked with the Raikou this turn, because now Andrew just needs to weave in either an attack with Raikou or with the Stoutland. Either one of those two, taking 2 prizes for him, and then just finding a way to take the one last prize will make it so that he wins by taking his final 3 prizes. But it was very important for Andrew to get through that turn quickly because of how much time is left. There's just less than 2 minutes remaining. Now Andrew has guaranteed there will be 2 more turns of this game. And by the way, Nicholas has finally found Mirage Gate.
Mirage Gate up and running, maybe 1 or 2 turns too late. Nicholas Moffit has yet to take a prize, has to accelerate the pace of play immensely. Andrew's hoping to take 1 more prize and also be turn 1 and 3 if this does indeed go to time. After Mirage Gate, that does put down onto the Sableye a Psychic Energy.
I think that's from the Raihan, actually.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, from Raihan. So we get to search the deck to find that missing piece. And with Lost Mine available, it's just a matter of if Nicholas has enough time. And I don't think he does, Chip.
Yeah, Sableye is going to be the way for him to KO the active. I think Nicholas's win condition at this point is for this game to not finish, right? That's how he comes away with 3 match points in this game. You know, he's obviously still playing at a reasonable pace, and he's going to Lost Mine to take this active KO. But he's got to try to find a way to deny Andrew taking 3 prize cards in the next 2 turns. We're down less than a minute. Players don't have the exact time, but the way this turn is going, this will probably be turn 0. We'll see, though.
Yeah, so Nicholas Moffit uses the Ordinary Rod to shuffle a couple of energies and the Mana Fee back
getting it back.
Then gets it back with the Quick Ball.
This forces Andrew's hand. Now Raikou is not as much of an option. It is going to have to be the Stoutland taking 2 prizes for you at some point.
In order to close this out, that is the final option that Andrew will have available. Primate Wisdom putting a card on top, and Manaphy puts itself back onto the bench. So now Lost Mine is being announced and being calculated. Now, does your turn, it doesn't your opponent's turn doesn't start until everything is said and done and they draw that card.
Yeah, your turn. It is not your turn until you draw a card. So with time being called here, it is currently turn 0. So this is Nicholas's second to last turn. This is turn 0. Andrew will have turn 1 and turn 3 to operate. Nicholas is only going to have turn 0 and turn 2. So this is realistically, you know, this turn is already over. He's already decided what he's going to do. So he's only going to have one additional turn to work with. He cannot win this game. So now his game plan has to shift. How do I make it so my opponent cannot win this game?
And so just recalculating, going to be 4, 8, 12. And we're over to Andrew. Turn 1. We have to take a prize this turn, and Stoutland has to take the remaining 2 to get a definite conclusion to this match.
And I think if Andrew takes a KO with Stoutland here, knocking out the Sableye, it's pretty reasonable for him to do it. He would go to just 1 prize card remaining. He would then be able to close out the game with the Lugia V-Star on the bench, even if Stoutland gets KO'd.
And that is enough to take down anything that Nicholas might promote. As soon as the Stoutland V comes through, Nicholas might see the writing on the wall. There's the Primal Turbo to accelerate to the Oranguru so that it can retreat. That's 2 energy attached.
Yeah.
And there's the Stoutland V and the second Primal Turbo to set up Double Dip Fangs. It's going to be a powerful colorless. We just have to find Double Turbo or Twin.
No, needs two powerful colorless energies and then another just colorless energy here, and he does have capture in hand. So this will be the Double Dip Fangs. Andrew Hedrick will go to just 1 prize card remaining, and I just don't know if there is a play here for Nicholas to prevent Andrew from winning. He doesn't have anything like Boss's Orders to try to stall something like the Guru in the active spot, and I don't even know if that would work because Primal Turbo just gets energies out of the deck.
Yeah, if there's anything stalled in the active, you just attach the energies, you can just retreat it.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal at all. There's a Boss's Orders and a Serena in Andrew's hand. There's the Double Dip Fangs. Andrew going down to 1 prize card remaining. Nick Moffit, turn 2, his final turn of this game.
Can he possibly prevent Andrew from taking 1 prize card next turn? All Andrew even realistically needs is just 1 more energy, and he can use Wild Tackle on Stoutland to just take a knockout on anything that's in the active spot. And there's really nothing in Nicholas's deck that has a high amount of HP. Rayquaza is going to be one of the highest ones with 120. Radiant Greninja has 130, so he can't even send anything up that can withstand the hit. He's got to clear the Stoutland out of play and just maybe hope Andrew doesn't have enough energy, but we know it's available.
With the amazing burst after that Colress's experiment, Stoutland V goes down. Nicholas Moffit takes 2 prizes. Andrew promotes the Lugia. This is his final turn of the game. Turn 1 and turn 3, Primal Turbo accelerating.
Yep, and with 2 energies available, Tempest Dive takes the KO on Rayquaza. Andrew will win game number 2, which results in this win-and-in match being a tie.
Very devastating for these players. The very hard-fought match, but when it comes to a tie, when you aren't getting the maximum available match points, it puts you in a bubble situation.
Exactly.
So things are still shaky for both of these players. They played their hearts out right at the 11th hour when it was most needed. And when we thought that it was for sure just going to be in Nicholas Moffit's favor, the Stoutland V comes roaring out of the prizes and seals the deal on that game too.
Yep, exactly what Andrew needed to close it up. Yep, neither of these players are eliminated just yet. They're at 35 match points, like you mentioned. That puts them on the bubble. And we'll be trying to get those standings as quick as possible so that we can hopefully figure out who our top 8 players